Alright folks, here we are with another video. I'm going to skip the duck on this one. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a copy of my arrest report. And this was the second or third. This was on 4/19, my birthday, 2017, which resulted in me going to the courthouse as a defendant after being accused of being a homeless Middle Eastern crack addict, among other things. This here is the form that was presented to me in the court the first time, which was loaded with all kinds of regulations and fees that were basically stacked against me so that I was going to be violated automatically. I had to go back to the court and request several changes to the order, including the ability to get to my home. And then I eventually ended up getting all of this dropped by the same commissioner. By the way, I was on probation, ladies and gentlemen, for 6 years. Yeah, and you know, who I have to thank for that is this guy right here. Well, actually his predecessor, but so when I tried to get copies of my arrest records, I had to go downtown and spend all kinds of money. And well, I was basically mailed this. Sorry, sir, your request is denied. Gee, thank you, sir. So yeah, what we have here is this document here, by the way. This is the receipt from the Internal Affairs Department regarding my complaint to the police commission, which went nowhere. Now, what I really want to show everybody here is the torture cell they put me in the LA County Twin Towers. Hopefully you'll be able to see this document a little better than I can through my lens, but this is a top view of the section of the jail that I was in, and there's a lot of interesting features here. Particularly, it had airtight doors, and it had increased air pressure. The air was absolutely filthy, full of carbon monoxide, and everyone in there was suffering from the side effects of excessive carbon monoxide inhalation. So this was basically the front door, and every time that door opened, there would be an enormous whoosh of air that left the space. There were huge vents, as you can see, that faced the cells, and they were blowing just huge amounts of frigid cold air that was full of carbon monoxide directly into the faces of the cells. And the air temperature in there was frigid. It was awful. And the smell, what's interesting is when they brought me in the first week, they took me up here along the tier all the way to the last cell, second to last, and the toilet was broken and it was completely full of filth, and they left me in there for days. And then finally they transferred me down here to about the fourth from the end, and that toilet was blocked. And I had to beg for 4 days to get a maintenance man to come in, and he went in behind the wall and finally unclogged the toilet for me. So for like the first week, I didn't even have a functioning toilet. They were basically punishing me. Now at this time, this was when Patrick McDonald was the sheriff and Luna was the police chief. So Luna got me thrown in here and McDonald was having me tortured. Now I want people to see this was an extremely interesting structure because there were a number of features that were built into the building. Like these are these puny little vents that they had in the cells that were meant to exhaust all of the high pressure air coming out, which was giving me wax impaction in my ears, and it was terrible. Meanwhile, on the television screens, they had these loops of television programs and commercials that were advertising pharmaceuticals for the symptoms of depression. So they're pumping the space full of carbon monoxide, and then they're trying to sell the inmates antidepressant medication through the commercials. It was awful. So what was really weird was, oh, actually I have these backwards. So this one here is the top. This is the second floor. Okay, that's what the front of my cell looked like. Now this is actually a look at it. That gray horizontal area here, this is actually the floor. So what you're looking at here is the ground floor. And what's really interesting is right here is the inmate's bunk. Now he would sleep here, and up here was like a steel tube that went all the way up to the ceiling, and it was hollow inside, and it was like a big echo chamber or a bellows. And this piece of steel here went through a gap in the slab and continued up through the ceiling up to the next level. So this was one big continuous piece of steel that could reverberate. Now in my cell, again, this was the floor right here, and this would be the entrance. I was bunked on top of this box. So there was a little step right over here, and you had to step up and get up on this thing. Now it was steel, and it was like a drum. And with it being attached to this wall, and there would be on the other side another bunk in the same shape. And then down here, there would be another inmate where he had another bellows up above him. So all four bunks were part of a continuous steel structure that had a drum at the top and what amounts to like a bass port at the bottom. So you'd have this person here being subjected to this sound coming down here, while the person up on the top is being subjected to the vibration. Now, if anybody on any one of these four bunks moved or tapped the wall, it would echo and it would disturb your sleep. So you couldn't literally move or tap because the sound would carry through all the metal. That was one thing that was very bizarre about it all. So this was literally designed into the building, okay? These are obvious features. Another feature was this heavy